flow of my presentation typically is highlight a trend, tell you some of the sub-trends that make that trend, and then bring out some case studies and implications of those across different industries. So let me start by my first megatrend, what we call connectivity and convergence. We believe there will be 100 billion connected devices by 2025, 6 billion internet users globally by 2025 out of a population of little less than 8 billion. And we will literally see Internet of Things. I once presented this slide to the CTO of Samsung, and he said to me, Sarwant, your numbers are conservative. His number was over 120 billion. And if you listen to what the CEO of Philips has recently said, that every light bulb in the future will be connected, makes you think M2M communication is very much here. What we'll also see is rollout of 5G. Those of you who've been around as long as I've been, you might remember the 1G phones. If you carried one of them, you didn't need to go to the gym. You would not need a Fitbit. You would have burned 3,000 calories. And as you've seen, we've gone from analog to digital, and with 3G, we're on data, and today with 4G and LTE, we sit on video streaming. Very soon, by end of this decade, we'll have 5G being rolled out. So what does 5G mean? Well, bandwidth will go up 5 times to 1 gigabytes per second. We'll have latency improvements almost 50 times. Very important, for example, for autonomous cars. But most importantly is the specifications. They will enable M2M communication. And just as we will have connectivity on the ground, we'll also have connectivity in the space. We'll have over 1,200 satellites being launched globally. Till a few years back, we only had the American GPS system, but now we have GLONASS from Russia, we have Beidou from China, and in Europe, we'll get our act together, and we'll have Galileo. Now, what does Galileo mean? Well, it's the first civilian constellation of satellites. So let's go into the sub-trend. What does this mean? Well, what it means, one of the key things will be big data. We have, as humans, have created as much data in the last 2 years as we have ever since the existence of Earth. And what we will see as a result of big data is more and more internet aggregators. In particular, one area I feel where we'll have a huge impact of big data, I think, is insurance. I think the insurance industry will change on its head, and I have an interesting example, bit of a provocative name of a company in the UK called Drive Like a Girl. But I think they have a fantastic value proposition. What they are saying is, if you're a youngster, and typically if you're a youngster, 16, 18 years old, just got a driving license and a new car, you're paying £2,000, £3,000 in insurance. What they're saying is, we put this black box in a car, depending on where you drive, how you drive, when you drive, we'll lower your insurance premium by 30%. Interestingly, this company is being bought by Toyota, because most car companies in future will also, just like they do financing and leasing, will also sell insurance. So interesting, but there are also a few social benefits. Like a friend of mine found out, he's a very protective father like I am. He got this insurance for his daughter, and what his daughter doesn't know, that at the end of the month, he gets a statement showing where she's been driving. Another interesting case study is Monsanto. I think it's amazing how the digitization is impacting even some of our very traditional industries. So if you know about Monsanto, basically they have 2 products. They sell seeds and they sell fertilizer. What they did in the US, and they have a very charismatic and a visionary CEO, what they did is they said, well, we have data about yield over the last few years. They digitized every farm in the US. They matched it up with weather data that they had in the past. And instead of now selling seeds and fertilizers, they are actually selling insurance to the farmers. So they're saying, we can guarantee you yield per hectare. You get from us, you buy from us all the products. So moving on from connectivity and convergence, I believe we are now entering what we call the cognitive era. We define artificial intelligence around 3 key areas. The narrow artificial intelligence, which is typically the Google search engine. We now are moving to general intelligence, which is the IBM Watson, and later today we'll hear from a very senior member of the IBM Watson team on what cognitive era means to them and what capabilities IBM has. And then I believe we'll move towards what we call superintelligence. Superintelligence does not exist today. Superintelligence, a good example of superintelligence is our brain. I mean, it's 99% more efficient. It has a much higher processing power than any other computer out there. Another key interesting thing, and I think we'll hear a lot about, is blockchain. Blockchain is a digital ledger. A great example of blockchain is actually the financial e-currencies that we have. But we are starting to see now good examples of blockchain being used in other industries. A good one I give you is IBM and Samsung ran an experiment. They put a washing machine as part of a blockchain ecosystem. And what they found is that this washing machine could order its own detergent. It could also track it across the supply chain, and it also had the capability to pay for it. Now, blockchain can be used in many, many other applications. I think it's an absolutely fascinating field. It can be used, for example, for loyalty programs. It can be used also for machines talking to each other. Anything that will communicate to each other in an M2M environment, blockchain could be the ledger of that communication in the future. And anything in the future, anything that moves could be autonomous, including autonomous Formula One cars. Now, you might think everything is turning digital. Let me just show you a quick video. Huh?
Emma. 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 Emma.
So no matter what, even if the world's turning digital, there's still a market for our conventional, traditional products. Moving on, I want to talk a little bit about bricks and clicks. I wrote a book. I think we got all the trends right, but except this one. And this is because in 2008, only less than 4% of all global sales were e-commerce. But this number has really jumped up. In the UK, it jumped up from 4% in 2009 to 11% in 2011 and stands around 16, 18%. And we'll see huge growth in this number. BMW announced very recently they're selling cars online in the UK. Interestingly, they sold the first car at 2 a.m. in the morning to an NHS doctor who doesn't have and interestingly, they're selling more of the expensive cars online as opposed to the cheaper versions, which normally you would not maybe associate with it. And interestingly, if you look at what Amazon is proposing, it's proposing that this 200, 400 meter area above the ground be kept for making drone deliveries. Interesting concept, and who knows, it might just happen in the near future. So I think one of the messages I have for you in terms of recommendations is every company needs a marketplace strategy. The question is, do you do one-to-many, which is you have your own marketplace selling to your clients, or do you go many-to-many, which is use a platform like Alibaba, Amazon, or eBay? The answer is you might need both. And interestingly, for example, BMW does both. They sell parts through eBay, but they also sell parts now through their online platform. Interestingly, there's a company called Atos. They have a zero email strategy, which I thought is absolutely brilliant. I'm not going to delve too much into social trends, but I think one of the key things we'll see with social trends is very much in future a heterogeneous society based on religion, cultures, age groups. I think we need to cater our products and market products to an amazingly very sub-segmented society in the future. And very quickly talking about some of the new business models. I think if you look at new business models, we've gone through an era of owning assets. Every logistic company had trucks, had warehouses. Nowadays, they say we own a platform. And to owning transactions. The question is, what is the future? Is it owning interactions? Everything we see is turning into a platform. Autonomous cars means a car becomes a platform. What is it you can sell to the customer using that platform? What experiences can you give to that customer with a platform? And if you look at biggest companies today, they have all integrated platforms, right from an exchange platform to a contribution platform, for example. The question is, what does it mean in the future? We are talking about internet of very specific things, like you see here, a service platform or a product platform, to perhaps an internet of a wider society, so connected living solutions coming together. The question is, what is the third generation? Is it internet of people? But these are some of the interesting other trends which I think we should look out after. Things like powered exoskeletons. We humans always wanted to be Superman, and now we can see it. I'm working with a car company actually bringing these technology into the shop floor to do certain things. Deep sea mining. I'm told there's 4 kg of gold for every human in the sea. I'm told there's so much lithium ion into the sea that it might actually become the 21st century oil, especially if electric batteries, electric vehicles take off. And interestingly, again, something Rohit talks a lot about is how can we harness the human brain in the future. So coming to my conclusion, if you look at some of the major discoveries and inventions we made, for example, we found molecules that led to industrial evolution. That brought in the big mega trend of urbanization, and we moved, and recently, as you've seen, we moved from a production to a services-based economy. Then we found electrons. We had electricity. Electricity powers everything, but it's a commodity today. It's a utility. And then we found waves, which power our mobile phones. And if you look at most of the telecom operators, they have become utilities. Today, we sit on Internet of Things. Everybody talks about a platform. There are over 100 platforms out there. I personally believe platforms will become commodities if they are not already today. So the big question is, what will be that big discovery or invention that we human will have, which will overpower us in our lives, but also become a commodity? Well, interestingly, we put 10 futurists together. We had an interesting debate. They couldn't come up with one answer. They came up with many. But I think the key one here I want to talk about is mobility. If you take the cost of a taxi today, it's roughly 10 units. 1 unit is the cost of the vehicle. 2 units is the cost of running the vehicle. And 5 to 7 units is the cost of the driver. Now you take that driver out of the equation, you've halved the cost of taxi. Now, Uber, thanks to increasing the utilization, has already halved the cost of a taxi in London. My journey from office to my home, which used to be 44 pounds, is now 22 pounds. Now, if it becomes 11 pounds, really mobility becomes a utility. They talk about cars will become like horses. You only drive them for pleasure on weekends.